Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Belgian Football Podcast. My name's Scott Coyne. I'll be your host for this episode, and joining me this week, as always, is my partner in crime, and he's becoming my, partner in regular crime these days. While our Ben's away, it's our very own Mr. Joris Beck. Joris, how the hell are you?
Or regular partner in crime. Well, luckily, personal life and football life are two completely separate things at the moment for me. So I'm alright. Unlike my side, of course.
And we may very well touch on your side just a little bit. I feel there's a Genk heavy episode coming at some point, probably quite soon. I think, in the spirit of spinning that wheel, we've reached Matchday 17. What happened this past weekend? Well, Dender are alive, folks. Very much so. They went to Ral and won 2-1. Club Brugge lost 2-1 to Standard. Union Saint-Gilloise and Ghent finished 1 apiece. St Truiden beat Club Brugge 3-2 in probably one of the games of the weekend, which has had some repercussions, which we will get to very, very shortly. Mechelen got revenge on getting dumped out of the cup during the week by Charleroi by beating Charleroi 1-0. Westerlo absolutely hammered Anderlecht 4-0. Could have been more. Antwerp celebrated the opening of that glorious new stand at the Bossel, the new Tribune 2, with a 3-0 win over Genk, and Leuven and Zulte Waregem finished 1 apiece. So I think the only place to start this week, Joris, is probably with the big news, which landed heavily late afternoon today, just within the last 3 hours or so. It became public knowledge that Club Brugge have now decided to dispense with Nicky Hayen's services. And not only that, but they've got his replacement lined up already. Nicky Hayen's gone, and an old face at the Jan Breidel is back. An old club manager, Ivan Leko, is back at Jan Breidel after periods recently, of course, at Standard and up until earlier today with the Buffaloes at Ghent. And I think this has kind of taken pretty much everybody by surprise, including Ghent themselves.
Yeah, definitely also a managerial change. Maybe at the other side of Bruges than we would have expected it to happen today. But yeah, the change in itself, okay, Hayen, the results have been a bit, leaky. Definitely at the last few games, lost 3 of their last 4 league games. Also in Europe, unfortunately, it's going a little bit less well than last season, even though they're still in the race. They're not doing too bad there. But yeah, apparently, ultimately, the results caught up. The domestic results caught up on him. Also, they did get a series of victories with 1 goal difference as well, which were not that convincing either. Where they just about did enough and got away with in a series before that series. That luck seems to have turned in the league. Was also coming based on the data on expected points, expected goals, and all these expected stats. They were overperforming a lot in the league. There is, maybe they still are. I don't know the exact latest status, but it might have evened out by now. But yeah, dropping so many points ultimately has cost him the job, which is a surprise because not only we were dropping points, also Union, who they are chasing, are having a slight downturn in form, or at least in points haul. So the distance to them is of course still very much doable, playable. But yeah, the loss against Hayen's former club, like for me, Hayen is definitely still a Sint-Truiden man as a player. That's how I remember him from my childhood. Ironically, that the loss to that side and them leapfrogging Club Brugge at the same time as well has cost Hayen the job now as well. But yeah, to me, the sacking of Hayen on its own in a vacuum is early action, but maybe justifiable based on what I just said. Maybe they didn't see it being able to turn around. Also, the rumor has it that that he also was internally discussing and being unhappy with how the squad has been built this season, also as late as this weekend still, and yeah, that might have not bought him more time now as well, unfortunately for him. But yeah, immediate action at a top club. That's definitely what he's fallen foul of here. Um, and immediately the replacement Leko, that's to me the bigger surprise for multitude of reasons as well. Of course, they are buying him from Ghent, and as you segued to me, of course, indeed, they seem to have been very surprised as well. There's a lot of things to say about that. Apparently, they've only found out through, was it either the press or even club's own statement, or like official announcement, basically, of Leko as the new manager. Well, that must have been fun reading. Like, no, wait, you're our manager. I know what happens, but apparently there was a clause, well, which is not. Well, it's standard practice, I guess, lately that there is a clause, but a clause at Ghent, apparently, based on what we know now, I will speak cautiously like that still, but yeah, did not know of. Then yeah, Club Brugge bought him out and brought in their old manager, who, yeah, it's not undisputed anyway as well, also in Bruges. So that's maybe a surprise, and the whole package on its own is a massive surprise. Of course, both things happening so quickly. Yeah. So Leko already, like, as of recording, Club Brugge are playing tomorrow as well in the Champions League. Immediately, a very important game against Arsenal. Okay, maybe they don't really count on points on that one. That's possible, but it's very very soon after this. After this change, that Leko immediately will have to manage in the dugout and do all the Champions League duties. For him personally, it must be really good. So, I mean, based on what we know, how quick everything seems to have gone, he clearly did not really have to think twice when they called him either. Not the first time he leaves the club in December, very soon as well, after having a reasonably successful spell at that club. Okay, with Ghent, it was still very, very early days, and it's not that they were super exciting or very overperforming, but they were more or less where you would expect them to be. And they just grabbed a nice point away at Union as well, of course. So that timing is also curious. So yeah, lots of question marks. Yeah, around this, we will hopefully find some more clarity about it in the upcoming hours and days, and maybe we'll be able to talk about it if there is anything of value. We can talk about it more next week again as well. But yeah, that next week, that would already be the week before Club Brugge face Ghent, the first time since that managerial change. That's coming on the 21st of December. Mark that in your agendas, I guess. I think it's a Club Brugge home game against Ghent, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it the other way? No, they already faced each other in Ghent. So yeah, that it's the home game. That's coming up soon, and that was already a lot of information. I'm sure you also have your own thoughts to spill here.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, but I just think this is really harsh, actually. When I heard this today, my initial feeling was that that's one of the harshest sackings that I've seen in ages, I think. There's only really two things that kind of happened here, I think. Either he's lost the dressing room, which I don't think he had really, or, as you were explaining, something's happened internally where there's been a disagreement on something reasonably important for them to feel that they needed to make the change. But the fact it's happened this quickly as well is kind of interesting, because this all came to a head this weekend. So it was very, very fast over this weekend. Ghent knowing nothing about it is both bizarre and also kind of amusing as well. I can only imagine what it must be like to be in the receiving end of that. Leko did say that he did try to contact Sam Barrow to essentially explain that he was leaving. He obviously didn't try very hard. Okay, he's maybe Sam's not answering his phone, but even a text, "Hi Sam, it's Ivan. Really sorry, I'm leaving. Thanks for everything. See you around," type thing. It's all a bit wild, really. There's an element of panic to this, slightly for me. I just think, once the decision was made, it was made, but they've gone straight away and got somebody who obviously knows the club, knows what's required. He's been there before, he's done it, he's been successful. So I think they probably see this as a safe pair of hands, which does suggest to me it's more of the latter in that there's been a disagreement that's kind of brought this to a head. It is very harsh. I mean, three defeats in the last four. Okay, that's if your club, that's going to put the pressure on you, but they are, they're only 5 points off the top. So, it wasn't, it was within a margin of error that I think, just makes this quite brutal. So it's come down to a personal disagreement, almost certainly, I think. The interesting thing is obviously losing the game to St Truden has allowed St Truden to leapfrog them, which obviously doesn't help. The Canaries, who we were talking about at length last week, now 4 points off the top. They haven't been that high since I think it was 2002, 2003 when Jackie Matthijssen was there, which, some people will be old enough to remember. Hands up if you're old enough to remember that. We can't see them.
I'm holding my hand. I'm holding my hand up here for indeed listeners can't see. I that was one of the first seasons I started following football in general.
Yeah, they're absolutely flying at the moment, as we know, and things just kind of got better for them. Wouter Rankin this week was talking about how much he's enjoying working with those players, and I find it fascinating to hear Ryan van Helden say playoff one is absolutely achievable for us. If we stick together and we keep doing what we're doing, which was really interesting to hear. So they're perhaps shifting their horizons. But yeah, the whole Hayen thing, I think I was expecting a manager to be dispatched today, if I'm being really honest. I just didn't think it would be Nicky. So that's where the surprise has come. I think he probably will be slightly surprised. Disagreements happen inside clubs, but yeah, I think they were in a position where, they could still have turned this around. So obviously there's a feeling that the disagreement is so big that, yeah, it can't be countered. There is an argument interesting in club fan circles, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this, Joris, because a lot of them are not very happy about this. They have a feeling that he was let down over the summer with recruitment. The club obviously would argue that they did spend money, and to be fair to them, they did. It wasn't that money wasn't spent, but when you look at who left and who came in, the impact really wasn't like for like, was it? Trasoldi's been all right, if we're honest. Stankovic has kind of been okay, but here's the key thing. I mean, are they weaker now than they were kind of at the end of last season? I mean, I think they were. I mean, I agree with the club fans in this sense. I suppose if you're Bob Maydew or you're Bart Verheiger, you're looking at it going, okay, we're having a slump at the moment. Nobody wants that, but we did spend money. It's your job to, get it to click, and we're not clicking at the moment. So it's a tricky one in some respects. You were talking earlier about being on the receiving end of kind of big clubs' decisions. That's the thing about bigger clubs. When they do make decisions, they don't tend to mess around. They make them, hard and swiftly, whether rightly or wrongly, whereas at other clubs, there's sometimes a bit more space or dithering with things. So, at least they've been decisive. You can say that much.
Yep, and yes, you can hear that as critique to my own club as well. Clearly, that was definitely underlying there. If they want to be called a top club, they should act like one. But okay, that's not the topic at the moment. Maybe we'll get to that in most likely another week or a week or two. But yeah. definitely harsh, and indeed that was an important thing to mention as well to the listeners outside of Belgium that might not follow it as well. Indeed, it is very not well received by the fans. This decision, both decisions again, like the sacking and the hiring of Leko, are both separately criticized as well. And the board is under pressure from the fans now as well, as they do, as happens in this kind of occasions. But yeah, it's really not not the finest hour there. Yeah, I do agree. The squad is at the moment less good than last season. At the end of the season, at least. And they didn't become last champion last season as well. That will also have increased the pressure for success domestically this season. Okay, they won the cup, of course, but they didn't win the championship. Again, it's like the last 3 years only once. That was with Hayen, of course, where he did turn around the tide after Ronnie Deila had a bad spell as well. Then yeah, but nonetheless, yeah. Now the pressure was high to really get something out of the season, and like we mentioned, they're like not that far off the top, so everything is really still possible, obviously. But will they be able to really um, to really get there? And will Leko be the right appointment? That's another topic indeed. Like I'm a little jealous about making this decision now quite soon. I'm not necessarily jealous on the decision that has been made. It's more the process. I can applaud the process. I applaud also between quotation marks still, because to me it's also still very early to do so. But if you do so, then at least it's fast and swift. But yeah, obviously this is I'm wondering what will happen now anyway as well. What will happen at Ghent? Will they appoint
Oh.
Hayen in return? Or it will be a clean swap and both face each other in 2 weeks. Who knows? But yeah, that yeah, very very fast and decision making. And I'm also with the club fans and you and on this one. Like they did not invest with the money they gathered. They did not invest well in certain positions of the squad. And even didn't get rid of everyone that they wanted to get rid of as well. So and not only get rid of the players that they want to get rid of, also blocked some other transfers of players that could have gone, who probably at the moment are not so happy that they will have stayed. And yeah, so the player management, whether that maybe more from the board from higher up, has been not great this summer, over the summer. It seems because Ordonius is one of those players, or the player we talk. No, one of the players we're talking about here. His levels have really dropped in recent, in this bad spell of club. Um, Not the whole season, so like it can also just be a general dip of in form, but even then, it's not an easy situation to then fight back and get your form back. And I mean, they could have actually won this game, by the way, against each other. Like or like a draw would have at least definitely be possible, but it was a deserved victory. But yeah, it's not that Club Brugge did not have any chances either. So they could have taken something out of this game, and maybe the whole story would not have happened then, even if it would have been a draw.
Yeah, it's interesting because some of you might not know this, but Club actually did take this game quite seriously. So seriously was the awareness of the slump in form. I mean, Nicky admitted that actually this week. He even used the word slump himself. He didn't hide from it, which is an admirable thing to do. Club went over to St Truden a day ahead of the game. Which they don't normally do. They went over, stayed over the night before, and actually had a training session on the pitch. don't normally do that. So there was an awareness that this was going to be a difficult fixture and that St Truden are playing well, and that they had to prepare accordingly. So they did take it pretty seriously. And yeah, like you were saying, they actually didn't play badly. St Truden are really just taking their opportunities at the moment and really, really playing as a team. I had a look this afternoon, Joris. One of the first things I did was I went and had a look at Hayen's record at club and Leko's record at club during his first spell. So we're going back to 2017 to 2019 when Leko was there the first time. Obviously, he won one Pro League title and one Belgian Cup. Hayen, little bit under 2 years. Again, one Pro League title, one Belgian Cup, and one Super Cup. But the most interesting thing was they have almost an identical record in terms of the number of games that they've had. So Leko's first spell was 99 games, winning 53, drawing 24 and losing 22. So he had a win ratio during his first spell of just over 53%. Hayen coached 101 games, winning 61, drawing 20 and losing 21. So the records are actually very, very similar. But Hayen's win rate is actually almost 60%. 59.88%. So he's got the edge in him with a little bit extra. But I just find it interesting that, almost identical in terms of the number of games. I'm sure lots of people have kind of gone and looked at those numbers. And as you were saying, the fact that we've got a Battle of Flanders coming up before Christmas on the 21st of December, that's going to become, a little bit spicier fixture now, I think, for a little while. On Leko as the choice, I think... I think I'm still trying to get my head around that a little, but I understand that as the safe pair of hands choice. I think it's probably worth reminding people, and a lot of people I've seen have been talking about this. He's not coming back to club off the back of the sparkling football that was played at Schlesien while he was with Standard, or the sparkling football played during his short tenure at Ghent either. He's obviously very experienced in Belgium, and if I was going to be critical of Ivan, he doesn't tend to stay around that long at clubs. And there are those who have accused him, for the sake of playing devil's advocate here, of jumping whenever he gets a better offer than his current club, which I think, if you look at his CV, I think is kind of a fair criticism. But he's allowed to do that. That's the way it goes. But yeah, it's just interesting to see a former manager come back to a club, and the fan base, from what I've seen today in the first few hours, are really not particularly in favour of this. So I think from his perspective, he'll need to try and hit the ground running to get some of those on side. What else has been happening this weekend? Well, kind of quite a lot. Before we got railroaded by that big news late afternoon, as we're touched on earlier, St Truden's still flying. Another win, Joris. 15 out of 15 now. And they did look, well, they are the big winners of the weekend. Last weekend it was Anderlecht who seemed to be capitalising on everyone dropping points. It's now St Truden. And as I was saying, last time they were this high was back in 02-03 under Jackie Matthijssen. And when you look at their upcoming fixtures, they've got a reasonable schedule there. They're not really going to be afraid of going to Lotto Park and playing Anderlecht the way they're playing. Then they play Mechelen at home, which if they win and get something out of in Brussels against Anderlecht, then, they're going to be looking, pretty strong in their position. They've then got Standard away and Leuven at home, so nothing to fear in their upcoming fixtures. The only downside for them recently is obviously they lost on penalties to Antwerpen in the Cup, but not too much for them to gripe about at all at the moment.
No, still flying high indeed. Going strong. Good victory this weekend, and it's indeed 5 wins in a row. That's that must have been a long time ago as well since that happened. I don't know exactly when, but
so long. I hadn't even gone to check that. That's how long ago that will be. I'll maybe bring that back next week.
Yeah, we can talk about that for sure. Still at some point, if it's still relevant, of course. But so far, that's true. But with Anderlecht game, that's probably still the heaviest banana skin. And okay, Mechelen is also having a reasonably an actual really good season as well. So the upcoming 2 games are even though, okay, I'm gonna disagree. Like Standard are also in the top 6 now, which is a mad thing to say, but that's another thing that happened this weekend. They have a negative goal difference, but they are effectively in the top 6 now. So they face some tough opponents actually in the next 3 weeks. So no, they won't be afraid in the form they're in. That's still something else, but these are not games that you expect them to win, or all three of them, or anything. And going away to Anderlecht, yeah, it still remains a difficult fixture for them. Of course, they are on a high. Anderlecht are now maybe a bit put down on the ground, and yeah, that's maybe I can smuggle it in here as well. They obviously had a really good victory for them away in the cup last Thursday, but then yeah, that was one of the fears which I was still mentioning last week. And I mean, this cannot have longer term effects, but in short term, at least, yeah, they didn't handle and cope with playing more than one game a week this time, because they really yeah, were wiped the floor by Westerlo. Of course, with some extra additional injuries, and a suspension of Hazard as well, of course. So that is another caveat to the other side there. But yeah, Anderlecht. But yeah, we're faced with the reality of a few games a week now, and an opponent to that did not have that anymore. So that the only opponent in the league that did not have and could focus on that one game. I presume they will be a bit better in form against Intrada again this weekend. But yeah, who knows? We all last week we were still indeed mentioning that it's still quite fickle, maybe how Anderlecht is had scraped their wins. They scraped a really big one, probably the big one for them the last week in the cup. But now in Westerlo, they were really nowhere. So they will be up for revenge. Sadly, yeah. Also, sorry for not focusing on Città this time that much. Focusing more on Anderlecht. Since we spent so much time on Città last week already, feel free to return to that in a bit still. But yeah, of course, focusing on that Anderlecht game now as well. Yeah, that will be potentially a weird game as well for Anderlecht with the. I'm I suppose a tribute to the other big news of today before yeah, yeah, capsized that news, I guess, a bit, but it's way more serious. Obviously, the sad passing away of Glenn de Boek. Yeah, not only but definitely a former Anderlecht player, and in again also in that same time period where I started following football as well. So the early 2000s still, yeah, to what he's part of my memories as well. But yeah, very sad, yeah, news that he passed away, or yeah, with a brain due to a brain hemorrhage. Yeah, at quite a young age. Is it 53 or 54? I think it's 54 in the end. Yeah, very sad, especially with the things around that as well. Of course, that he lost his father this year still, and on that funeral, his mother got a brain hemorrhage herself, and unfortunately also did not survive that. So yeah, definitely a lot of condolences to the family, since yeah, they are receiving a lot of hits in 2025. Hopefully, yeah, they get that's the last thing they have to suffer through for a long while now, because that's more than your fair share, for sure. And yeah, very unexpected. Obviously, last few years he became a bit more of a laughing stock, a little bit in his coaching career, due to his jacket, for example, and but also unfortunately with the lack of results at the last clubs he managed. after a really good start of his career. But okay, that's not so important at the moment, of course. But the start of his managerial career was actually quite successful at Cercle Brugge. But yeah, definitely a remarkable figure as well, and someone that gave color to the league, that has left us way too early.
Yeah, it's very sobering news that today, and again, much like the on the field issues took everybody by surprise. Glenn had certainly been having some health issues for a while now. It was quite well known public knowledge that he'd had some complications as a result of heart surgery he'd had over the last year as well. That may or may not have factored into this in some level, obviously, as well. So his health hasn't been great for a while, but certainly something that took everybody by shock. 36 caps for his country as well, between 1993 and 2002. One goal in there. 10 years at Anderlecht, obviously the majority of his career between 95 and 2005. And as a manager, obviously had spells at Cercle, Beerschot, Beveren, Mouscron, Lokeren and Kortrijk twice, most recently in a couple of years ago, 2023, of course. Yeah, kind of a sad loss, and we may well return to this actually, because there's lots of people talking about that sad news today. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a day in which, you know, the big news stories have kind of come unexpectedly, really this week. Before we move on to talking about the CPL, Joris, we should circle back to something we talked about at the end of last week's episode. We were starting to get a little bit excited about speculating about the World Cup draw. We now know that Belgium will play in Group G, and their opponents are in this order, folks. Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. So the first fixture is on the 15th of June in Seattle against Egypt with a 9 p.m. kickoff time. That's 9 p.m. Belgian time. So that's getting played at the Seattle Lumen Field, which is home to the NFL side Seattle Heat Seahawks and the MLS side Seattle Sounders. The second game 6 days later is against Iran in Los Angeles, good old LA, bit of glamour there. Again, a 9 p.m. kickoff time, Belgian time. The SoFi Stadium, home to the LA Rams and the LA Chargers. And then the final group game 6 days later, again on the 27th of June, is against New Zealand. This is the interesting one in a way, because it's the awkward one. Not only is it the final group game where, you know, everything will probably hinge on this to some extent, it's also got a 5 a.m. kickoff time, Belgian time. So set your alarm clocks, folks. That's in Vancouver. That stadium's the home to the Vancouver Whitecaps, by the way, for pub quiz fans. And the group winners, to get really interesting, if we win this group, Joris, we will play one of the best third place sides. So there's quite a big incentive to go out there and win the group. Happy with that draw?
Yeah, for Vancouver, of course, Jupiler Pro League legend Jodrik de Pupe from Denver that moved to there last from Denver plays there, so and actually made some minutes in the final that they played as well, but lost this weekend. But okay, that's again pub quiz material, maybe. But quite happy with that draw. I did not get any of the opponents I had wanted before. That was already not possible after two sides were drawn, even already in the because my dream draw would have been Ecuador, because they would really be a big challenge for Belgium with their playing style and lack of core being such a good defense and being lethal at the counter if needed. The Uzbekistan, because that would just would have been a fixture that would never happen, and effectively might never happen. Okay, bar maybe future World Cups if the format stays the same. Um, and from the last group, my dream draw would have been, if they qualify the Democratic Republic of Congo, because of, well, the obvious history with Belgium, or if they would fail to do so, Curacao, because they have a big link with the Netherlands. So that would be a strange kind of mini derby, since the big one would not have been possible, at least not in the group stage anyway, because of both Netherlands and Belgium being in the same pot. But yeah, but we can't complain, I guess. No, it's really a winnable group, favorable group. Egypt still a big challenge, I would say. Like, regardless of everything, but like maybe even bigger than Ecuador, or at that level. Um, Iran, also similar to Uzbekistan, to be fair. Actually, I believe they only got 2 draws in their qualification rounds, which were against Uzbekistan, and won all the rest. Or in the final stage of the groups, I don't know exactly how that qualification works. There's quite some games there, but that in the final stages they only drew twice against Uzbekistan. Um, but very winnable nonetheless. Obviously, interesting for political reasons again as well, how that will go with the relationships between Iran and the West, and especially the US lately. Well, not only lately, but at the moment, for sure. And then New Zealand, yeah, that's just a must-win game, for sure. I also wrote a little piece about it, like I mentioned last week, for the Athletic, so you can find it somewhere. It's a big live blog with reactions from all sides, from not, I'm not sure about all nations, but many nations at least. So if you find the link, Scott shared it as well. We shared it on our social. Yeah, you need to scroll down, especially now. It's been a while, but that's that could be something to read, but more or less what I just said there. Of course, Egypt, a big challenge, with Mohamed Salah, of course, still being there, even with, yeah, he's not the same this season, but at club and at national team level, that's always different. Even though I also know he actually has inside Egypt, he's not the most. For some reason, I mean, we might have to have a deep dive in that maybe more. But like, I know on the surface, I know he's not the most favorite player from many Egyptians. But I don't really get why. But that's there's probably more about to be found about that. We can probably Google that as well, but let's not do that now. But yeah, with him, and of course with Marmoush, also from City, so they really have a few really good players. Trezeguet, that we also know from Anderlecht, and Mouscoon, at the time in Belgium. So yeah, good players definitely, but you would hope and expect that Belgium has better players and can and a better squad in general. We'll have to see how things go, but the first game is going to be immediately a crucial one for the winning the group. And I have no doubts that they will qualify one way or another through this group. Worst case, even best third, but that is unlikely to happen. And always when I'm so convinced about something, this is something that never happens. It doesn't happen, especially with the national side lately. But nonetheless, this they should be able to get over the line, even in first place. They should really get that done. And yeah, all the other, like, the external factors are indeed in favorable as well. Like, the one thing would have been, and still is a little bit, but less than I expected, the night hours that the games would be played. But in the end, it's only one game so far in the group stage, and it's actually on a Saturday, so that's like also nice for if people would want to get up for it, if there's still something at stake. For Belgium, then yeah, you don't have to sacrifice the workday, or like get, yeah, sacrifice either officially or unofficially, let's say, the work day, for that. It's on the weekend, so you can still recover after that, if it get up for it, watch the game, and either have a lovely rest of the Saturday, or go back to bed and cry yourself to sleep in the worst case.
Yeah, lots of unofficial holidays and sick days coming up for the course of that month all over the world,
Yeah,
not just in Belgium.
yeah, definitely, and that's of course so only the times, but that was a least favorable, which in the end was not so favorable. But then the other things that did work out quite well is like the not that um, not much travel time for the group stage. Even if they would manage to indeed grab that first place, I believe the next round would also be played in Seattle. So and it's not official yet, but I think it will be by the end of this year. It should be end of this month. That means it should be official where they will be staying and have the base camp. But it's the stars were looking like Seattle, and that I do think that would make sense given the rest. So all fixtures are played in relative, of course, vicinity to each other, even when there is a Canadian game in there as well. Both cities are not too far from the respective sides of their borders, of that border. So that's favorable, and also it's to the side of Canada and not to the side of Mexico. So the heat will be less of an issue than it could have been. Maybe a little bit in the Los Angeles game, but I believe that still should be manageable. Then in general, like so, all these external non-footballs for factors, travel, weather, even playing times, kind of worked out quite nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have preferred them to have got. I still feel like a slightly harder group probably would have been better. I know I said this, kind of emphasised that last week, but looking at what we've got, then yeah, you absolutely should be going out to win that group, especially when the prize is playing one of the best third placed side finishes. Do you know what I mean? So there's a clear route there. Interestingly, two of the three sides Belgium have never played before in Iran and New Zealand have played Egypt 4 times, 4 previous friendlies. Interestingly, Belgium have lost 3 of those 4 friendlies. For those who like some facts, most recently November 2022 under Roberto Martinez, Belgium losing 2-1 to Egypt.
That must have been right before the previous World Cup, which
Yeah.
did not go so well. So hopefully that's not an omen either.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, but in terms of the way the cards have fallen for Belgium, I think really very favourable, and kind of lots to look forward to there. So if you're booking flights and hotels now, read those piggy banks, because some of the prices flying about there, no matter where you're going, are proper wild stuff. But we will come back to that, and we will have a lot more to say about all of this as we kind of get nearer the tournament. And you never know, we might even spoil you and produce a World Cup special episode during the tournament as well to try and cover this. But usually you can find me and the guys across different forms of media when big tournaments are on, because everyone wants to talk to us about Belgium. Of course they do. So we get lots of interesting invites to do fun things like that, and they're already coming in as well, which is nice to see. Before we go, Joris, a couple of other things we should cover. First of which is Player of the Week. Who is your Player of the Week this week?
Yeah, a weird jump back to the Pro League now, but nice segue there. It's one player that I don't think will feature in the World Cup. Most likely not. It's not very likely. I do believe he features for the under-21s though. It's Westerloos Arthur Piet voor, who not only scored a goal, of course, which he doesn't regularly do as a central midfielder, but set them up. That set them up to that 4-0 victory over Anderlecht. But not only the goal, but he also was bossing that midfield. He had the most fouls on him, won most duels at the same time. All the mentality stats, let's put it that way, maybe were really in his favor. That's maybe an oversimplification of it, but he just had an overall good game, was everywhere. the Anderlecht's midfield were nowhere as well due to some of those factors that I mentioned earlier in the episode. They were definitely struggling and being bossed by, among others, but mainly Piet Voor, who gets the mention. There's other players from Westerlo that could have been there as well. Sayed Manesh, of course, scored 2 goals and could have scored a hat-trick as well. And if he would have gotten that, maybe he would have actually snatched it for me. But it Piet Voor in midfield. Just winning all duels, being everywhere, keeping it tight most of the time as well at the back, and topping it up with that goal. That was the 1-0. Of course, it was a gift, but he unwrapped that nicely in this season, in this holiday season. It's my player of the week.
Yeah, he was very good this weekend. A real thorn in the side to Anderlecht, and Westerlo actually they've been playing pretty decently for a while. Just as we know, not getting the points they kind of deserve. Doing it big time this weekend, of course. Unlucky not to score more than 4. Besnik Hazy actually said after the game, which made me smile a little bit. He said it was a complete non-a-game. Everyone was bad. Absolutely everyone. So I think he was glad to get out of there, just conceding 4. The way that the game went. In fact, Westerlo have impressed you so much this weekend that you're going to see them in a couple of weeks, aren't you? You're getting a little trip to Het Coupier ahead of Christmas.
Exactly. They got me so excited that it looks like it's not official yet, but it looks like that I will be watching them in their next home game. Like I was already joking to my mates that I'm going with. Hopefully they also score in the first minute there after that happens. And I missed that goal as you already know, the listeners didn't, because of tuning in a bit late and thinking like we still don't score many goals. So I probably can be relaxed at tuning in if I'm a few minutes late. It's fine. Well, little did I know, but again, hopefully as many goals, whether it's for them or for La Louvière. That's the game that I will be going to normally. Will be we'll be scoring some more goals there as well.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah. You know, Westerlo Ral, a BFP visit from Westerlo Ral, because it's not just the big boys we're interested in here. We cover everybody, and it's probably worth reminding everybody as well. Me and Ben have seen Genk more in person this season than Joris has. You know what I mean? That's although perhaps because of the way his side are playing, that's maybe not a bad thing, Joris.
I hope to also change that in that same Christmas period, but I'm not sure it will happen at the moment yet. It's not entirely only up to me. So I'll have to see.
Yeah. Schedules involve many people these days, don't they? They do.
Yeah,
they do.
But to come back to Piet Voor, also like one of the main things that stood out for me was also in showing again like this. I think I already mentioned that he was the most fouled player, but he also made the most tackles. So this combination of stats is really, he was busy attackingly and defensively, he really was, bossing the midfield, like I said. Just a really, really good game. Probably his best game so far. Still 20 years of age only. So who knows if he keeps developing where we will end up, or if it could still be that this is his level. But he really had a really decent and more than decent, excellent game. This week.
I've always quite liked him. I think he's a decent player. I think he's one who's got potential who, like you're saying, depends on what happens. Obviously, lots of factors come into these things, but I've always liked him. He's got something about him, I think. Decent player. He can handle the physical side of the Belgian game as well, very well, and that bodes well for his development. There's no doubt about that. Before we go, we should touch on the Challenger Pro League, as we always do. We always like to do. Matchday 15 down there in the Challenger Pro League. Olympic Charleroi and Patro Eisden finished goalless. Serang lost 1-0 to Eupen. Liers beat Young Genk 2-1. Anderlecht Futures and Molenbeek finished 2 apiece. Club Next have won a game, everybody. They beat Beerschot 3-1. Beveren continued their generally fine form after dropping some points in recent weeks. They beat Yves der Eyger's Frank Baran 1-0 at the Free Teal. Young Ghent lost 3-1 to Lokeren, and RFC Liège are up to fourth. They beat Kortrijk, who dropped points 2-0. So Beveren are still top. But they have extended their lead a little bit, Joris, because obviously Kortrijk dropping points along with Beerschot. So Beveren not only continuing to do well, but are the big winners down there. RFC Liège kind of creeping up on everybody. They're up to fourth now, as I was saying, and actually having probably a better season than they expected. They did quite well last year, in truth, but looking at them at the moment, I think they're probably ahead of where they thought they would be. And yeah, Club Next won their first game, so that means everybody across the top two divisions has now finally won a game. Jonas de Rock's got his first win under his belt, hopefully his first of many. Wonder how he feels today as well with the appointment of Ivan Leko, because Club have got a reasonable record of promoting from within to the senior side and getting those calls right. And I know Joris hasn't been in there very long, but they've decided to not go down that road this time. I actually was in contact with someone today, Joris, a former employer of Nicky Hayen's, whose reaction to this news was something that we probably can't repeat on this podcast. So that just goes to show you, folks, it's not just us that have been surprised. Other people across the footballing landscape had some expletives to express on that news. So things are kind of hotting up down there, but it still looks like Beveren are the ones to catch by, a fair bit at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Coming back to the Jonas Druk thing, of course, he also really just got his first win as well at Club Brugge. So he's been in charge for, okay, I don't know exactly, but I'm assuming it's been less than 2 months, maybe less than a month even. No, not less than a month, but not that long anyway. So maybe that's why. But yeah, he still would have been maybe a surprise to him as well. But I don't think he really expected to get that spot. But they did get that win, of course. So that's of course important for them. Still a little bit lacking behind, but it's not impossible, of course, to get back up to other sides. 3 and 5 points to the next ones. And up top of United, Beveren really had a good weekend after dropping a few points and seeing Kortrijk and Beerschot creeping closer. This weekend, the opposites happened again. Beerschot being at the receiving end of that Club Next first win, of course, and Kortrijk also dropping points against Liège. Who we also mentioned, they're indeed sitting nicely in fourth place. Of course, maybe we're not generally doing that, but there are strong rumors for their striker, of course, that he will leave in the winter already. So that will be an interesting story to follow. Sint-Truiden might be interested. They've seen the success story with Bertaccini, of course, for them. But Liège also has seen that, and that's why they're also asking a fee that's higher than Sint-Truiden seems to want to pay at the moment. But even if Sint-Truiden don't snatch him, it's very likely that he will leave in winter. Of course, one of the top scorers currently in the Challenger Pro League. That's worth a mention. But yeah, really sitting nicely, having a good season. These reasonably good season. I don't think they really expect to promote. So then this is the best position they really can get. And obviously there are playoffs at the end of the season, so they might still get a chance to, and we'll be happy if they are in that. There's a reasonable gap to 8th position for them now, 7 points. That's not enough, but there are some gaps opening up in the classifications in general, and they're in a good position.
Yeah, and just to kind of underline how competitive things are in Belgium, if we look at the top flight again for a second, move away from the CPL, only 6 points separate 13th from 6th, obviously, which is a playoff 1 spot, and only 5 clubs have picked up more than 50% of all the available points. So that shows you kind of how insanely competitive the top flight is, and the CPL is becoming more and more competitive actually year on year as well. It is a rapidly improving division. Well, that's it, Joris. That's another very busy week in Belgian football. But before we go, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the European action coming up this week, because we've got Club Brugge in action against Arsenal, as we know. Union are playing Marseille, and your side, Genk, are playing Midtjylland. Many coefficient points in there, do you think?
Difficult games, all of them. Midtjylland sounds like the easier one, but one given Genk's own form, even though in Europe that seems to be a bit better. Also, for me, still the only lifeline for Fink still currently after last week. But they are actually effectively leading are one of the leaders in the Europa League, and have a really, really dangerous striker in Francolino, who did get I don't have an injury update. I know he got a knock he was subbed off injured last weekend, so that might be a glimpse of hope, which is a sad thing to say for an injured player of an opponent. I don't like to say that, but like with him or without him, I can imagine their top scorer, that would make a big difference. Hopefully it will be Genk's form. There are chances anyway, I guess. For Genk, despite that good form in Europe from Midtjylland. Against Marseille, crucial game if they really have some ambitions still and they do, of course, we all know they do, but if they want to advance to the playoff rounds, they need to win this. Not an easy game at all. Marseille also lost. Didn't lose in the end, but dropped points. But Marseille dropped points and lost this weekend, so they're not in the best form. It seems like the more winnable game of the next two, at least, before the end of the year. And Club Brugge against Arsenal. Yeah, in previous seasons that would have been a winnable fixture, because Arsenal, even when they were already really good side, didn't always show up in these league stage and group stages, especially in away games. But unfortunately, this year that does not seem to be the case. They have some injuries themselves, much like Club Brugge themselves as well, of course. That's that could be the one. Again, the positive. That's the sad thing. I have to mention the injuries of opposition sides that are like the positives, because that does not seem to be a really winnable game. Maybe there will be a Leko shock effect, of course. Who knows? By the way, for tactical reasons, I also find Leko appointments very, very weird with what they have. But okay, that's maybe something we'll dive in next week or another time, because I guess we talked about it a lot already. But that's a very tough game. I don't see any points in that. Union against Marseille, I'm hoping they can grab the win. Probably already happy with the draw if that would happen as well. And for Genk, they're so unpredictable, but in Europe, not all sides seem to have found out Genk in the Belgian league so far. So hopefully they can take their chances like they did in Braga. I'm hoping for Braga. I'm not expecting, but hoping it's something similar as to what happened in Braga. But realistically, I would also really be happy with a draw there already. So I guess, realistically speaking, 2 points out of those 3 games seem to be already a success, which is another sad thing to say. But hopefully, one team that wins, and they already exceed my expectations for all sides together. So who knows?
Yeah, we know at this level, across all competitions, there's no such thing as an easy game anymore at all, really. And, you were talking about Midtjylland. Actually, they've been really strong at home this season. I've seen a little bit of them, and, Yeah, that's they've been really strong and impressive, and good at punishing sides.
Celtic have been punished by Francolino himself as well, but also the squad as a whole. Indeed, that's true.
Yeah, that's no less a tough game than the other two fixtures. I don't think at all. So we will see how we get on. If you like what we're doing here at the BFP, please do consider leaving us a little review in your podcast platform of choice. Me and the guys would appreciate that. It always helps new people find us. If you'd like to stick your hand in your pocket and contribute a little bit to our production costs, you can do that at our Buy Me a Coffee account. That would be very kind of you if you wanted to go down that road. You can find us all, of course, on social media, as always. So if you want to hunt us down with a particular query or question, or you even might want us on your podcast, some people do get in touch with us and ask us to come on and have a chat with them, then you can do that via those mediums as well. But whatever you're up to, folks, have an absolutely fantastic week, and we'll talk to you next week on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.